All right, everybody. Hey, listen, I'm here in the temple with my girl, Nikki Woods. So happy to have her with me today. Thank you, Nikki, for making time in your schedule to visit the temple and talk with me. I know you've got a plethora of other things in which you can and will be doing. So I'm really thrilled and elated to have you with me of Nikki Woods Media. And
Who can refuse an invitation to the temple?
yeah, hey, listen, it's a
Temple.
special
Who can
invitation
refuse?
when
Yeah,
you're
it's
called
awesome.
up to the temple.
Temple.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. So let me tell some of you all who may not know who Nikki is. Nikki, obviously, she's the CEO of Nikki Woods Media, and she's a media personality. She's an author. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's a straight up boss. And I was just talking with her. We were just talking. I've been rocking with Nikki since the GCI days in Chicago in the late 90s. She won't own how many decades that is, but it's all good. Uh,
I think you just owned it for me, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, but Nikki, I mean, she was handling all the news and infotainment. She was dropping all the information, and then most recently, and what many of you may know Nikki Woods from is her production work on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And as you were senior producer, right, Nikki?
I was executive. Yeah.
Ex-
I started as senior, but yeah. I made the promotion quietly, and I don't think anybody ever changed the title, but that's okay. I'll own it for myself.
Wait just a moment. Retake.
Yeah,
Executive
thank
producer
you.
of the Tom Joyner Morning Show.
If you're gonna add all those years to me, we might as well make it
Yeah,
make sense, right?
yeah, I mean, the promotions have to come with the time. I
They
got
gotta
it,
come with
man.
all those years, right?
But yeah, I mean But Nikki, I'll say, and that was the most successful syndicated urban radio show. And I knew Tom from K104, KKDA
Hmm.
FM, and of
Yeah.
course, even with me, I worked at KJMZ 102.3 Jams with Russ Parr and all those guys. But so happy to have you. You are.
Sorry. Let me just
Yeah,
put my condolences in there for the Russ Parr time. No, I love Russ. I'm
I
joking.
have
I
nothing to
love,
do with that. Alfreda's and
no,
all. I
I
have
love
nothing to do with any of that, right?
I love Russ. And you know what's interesting?
What?
Olivia Fox and I grew up in the same city, and I worked with Olivia's mom before I went into radio.
Listen, you were the
How
Olivia Fox
small of a
before Olivia
world is
Fox. You
it?
know that, right?
I was
I
what?
mean, you were my original Olivia Fox.
Oh, okay, good, 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 good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Olivia did her thing, but I was like, she's no Nikki Woods. No, no shade to y'all. No, I'm just joking.
No, I
But
just think
look,
it's cool that we both came from the same small city, and I worked with her mom. I mean, it really is. I just think it's cool.
yeah, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's very cool. Simply because I mean, whenever you're able to see like, wow, it's almost like Jesus. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? So coming from those small towns, right?
Right, Rock Hill,
Not maybe
Missouri.
not like
Hello.
Jesus.
No, let's yeah, because my mama will call. Please
Yeah,
don't
no,
liken
no, we won't.
anybody around here to Jesus.
That's right. That's right. But check this out, Nick. So you're a quintessential interviewer, and I was thinking about how to interview you, and then I said, forget it. I just want to talk. I just want to
Yeah.
do a deep dive in conversation. You're somebody who is quite salient with your quotes, and you handle communications on the highest of levels. So this should be an easy task for me. So how about we just talk?
I think that's the best kind of interview to give. So let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's do this. So by way of introducing you to our audience and giving them a straight with no chaser um, from the source introduction,
Mhm.
what's your story? Tell us just
Woo-hoo.
a little bit, about your story, the small town coming up and all
Absolutely.
that good stuff.
No, absolutely. So originally from a small suburb of St. Louis, Missouri, called
Hello.
Rock Hill, Missouri. And so very small town. I mean, the street I grew up on, everybody that moved onto that street stayed like at least 30 years. So the
Wow.
people all of the kids that grew up on that street, like we've known each other since birth. Um, they were like, my mom was best friends with the lady, you know, that lived down the street, Mrs. Jackson, and my dad was best. I mean, so it was this really small, very protected, very cocooned upbringing. My dad was the mayor for a long time, so then we had that added level. Yes.
He
So
was
like
the
literally,
mayor.
like literally, we had like the police would run by, and you know, if anything was untoward, which it often was, you know, my parents
No
would know
comment.
about it before they got home. I remember one time they were out of town for something, and I had some friends over, and the police were waiting for my parents when they got back home, just like waiting in the driveway, like they'll be here soon. So I had a very safe, very protected upbringing. And so I made the decision that I needed to experience something totally different. And so I decided I was going to go to Howard University in Washington, D.C. to
Nice.
get my undergrad. And
That
I
was
went on a
that was different,
scholarship.
Nikki.
Oh my goodness. I went on a full scholarship because my father absolutely refused to pay to send me to DC by myself. So I literally stalked the admissions person. I mean, I did well in school, you know, and I was fairly intelligent. But everybody at Howard was like, the top of their class, like, you know, already running businesses or whatever.
Right.
So for me, it certainly was eye opening to see that amount of people of color like really doing something, like really wanting to change, and that young. So I mean, I had seen other people, but that young. I mean, the first year there, like we had a sit-in, like we were marching, like all sorts. I mean, it was out of control, so out of
D
control that I
Militant.
almost. Oh my gosh,
Remember
I
D
was no, I
Militant
was
from the radio show?
no, I was the observant. I was not the
Oh,
militant.
you
I
were
was
D.
watching. I was not going
I
to get
got
sent home.
y'all. I got y'all.
I was bringing sandwiches to the sit-in. You know, the people that had, you know, were sitting in I mean, it was just a mess. And so, I mean, I experienced things I never knew, you know, were in the world. And I think that's what really opened me up to like this greater conversation and like really wanting to have something on a larger scale, this
Yeah.
conversation. And
Yeah.
so that's what eventually led me into journalism and to TV and radio was the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. That's good. You know, you were talking about, your dad and mom, and
Mhm.
you've referenced them. Even I think you have a even in your invite to the social media, your YouTube channel, you kind of talk about mom and dad and everything. Talk a little bit more about that. That 13 was it 13 years old when you got your eye opener, and yeah, you caught a new
Yeah, it's
revelation.
a very it's a very interesting story, and I always want to preface it by saying that I have absolutely wonderful parents. Now, I am a
Excellent.
huge daddy's girl, so you hear a lot about my daddy, but you don't
Yep.
hear as much about my mom because my mom and I certainly have a different relationship, and it has not been it hasn't been easy,
Hmm.
and that has nothing to do with anything other than different personalities.
It just hadn't been
But
easy.
it just hasn't been easy.
Right.
But she is a great mother.
Yep.
She never did anything to me. I mean, my story would suggest that you know that for some reason there was something that happened, and there just wasn't. But
Right.
I tend to be very strong in my opinions,
No.
and yeah, at 13, I told my daddy we didn't need my mama anymore. Like that we would be okay. Like I could wash dishes, I knew how to cook, I could do all these things, and my dad told me in no uncertain terms that you will leave before she will. So you either get on the family bandwagon, you know, and yeah, and it broke my heart, you know, quite honestly. You know, what is a
I'm
13-year-old
surprised
year
that's
old
all
girl?
it broke.
Yeah, you know, and it should be a testament to my mama that I am still here breathing and have both of my eyes. So that alone shows what a great woman she is, and the fact that
Absolutely.
she really never made me feel bad for the relationship that I had with my father.
Right.
And as a parent now, I can see how difficult that must have been for her, because there's no confusion about how I feel about my father.
Yeah.
And there's no confusion that that's not how I demonstrate my love for my mother.
Isn't that kind
So,
of strange? And I think a lot of people have that story, where
mhm,
there's an affinity toward one parent, or if there seems to be a greater allegiance to one
mhm,
parent, there seems to be a lesser allegiance to the other one, or whatever. But that's just interesting, especially, and I can't say about any other ethnic groups or any other cultures, but I know in the
mhm.
Black African American Negro cultured group, it tends to show its head quite a bit, really
And I
drawing that
think
line
that
of people's.
and I talk about it because I think we need to make it normal. I mean, because it is.
Right.
It's like there's a lot of, and it really just boils down to personality differences. Like I
Yeah.
don't necessarily understand why she does what she does, and she doesn't necessarily understand why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And I think that if people made that more normal, then we would be able, I think, to repair some of that, because we both wouldn't feel so bad about it. So
Right.
like people make my mom wrong because of my reaction and she's not. And then people make me wrong because of my reaction, but I'm not. I mean, at
Hmm.
13, I did some wrong things. Like, so I expressed it wrongly.
We all did.
Let me be clear,
Yeah.
but I was 13. I have a tremendous amount of respect for my mother, a tremendous amount of love and appreciation, because she did let me be who I was, and she never made me wrong. Like other people make me wrong.
Right.
She's never made me wrong.
Right.
And for that, I can only love and respect her.
Hmm.
But we're still different people, and I don't quite understand why she does things, and vice
Right.
versa. And that's just life.
Well, Nick, I mean, probably even with your kids. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I think for some reason we think that we have to like people that we love, and
Right. Or like
the
them
truth of
all the
the
time.
yeah, and yeah,
Right.
and the truth of the matter is, I mean, even my children, I'm like, there are a lot of times I don't like them, but there's never a time I don't love them, right? And it's
Right.
because of those personality differences that we talk about, right?
And I think that the different person, because I have two children too, and I think you really have to have two to kind of understand, or more than one to
Yeah.
understand this dynamic. Because
So you
even
have
with
some
my
great young kings,
children,
by the way.
yes, I do. I really do. In spite of me, I have some great kids.
That's right.
Um, but I have to realize that they're different kids, and I can't. And my youngest son has a relationship with me that my oldest son doesn't have, because they're two different people.
Hmm.
And it took my son leaving to go to college, my oldest son leaving to go to college, and then coming home,
Hmm.
that I was like, this is a wonderful human being. Like, he is amazing.
Hmm.
And so there's this newfound respect, and it's interesting to watch us kind of navigate our almost adulthood. And like, I've been on my own for a year, so I'm used to not having to ask you things, but I'm still mama, and this is my house, so I need some respect kind of things.
Come on,
So
Queen of the
it's
Castle.
interesting. I'm sorry.
I said, come on, Queen of the Castle.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I don't want to take away his independence, but I know he still needs guidance. And so it's really interesting, like forming this new relationship with him now.
Yeah.
And it has definitely changed our relationship. And so I think he needed to be gone to appreciate like what our relationship brought to his life, just like I did.
Hmm.
And I think once that was done, now we just have this really cool mother and almost adult kid relationship. So
Right.
it's nice. It's really nice.
You bring up a good point. And I really have no script. I remember I hit you yesterday. I'm like, I'm trying to script out this interview, and I'm like,
Which
I
made
can't
me
script
really
out that.
nervous because I thought it was gonna be like 60 minutes. I was like, he's been researching and he's gonna
Well,
have people coming out of the woodwork. Or,
now
no.
look, now I did my work. I got my work in,
No,
right?
I know.
But I'm like, you're Nikki, so let me just talk to you. So you're
Yeah.
talking about your sons, right?
Mm.
How do you make sure that you don't participate or contribute to any emasculation of your sons while trying to guide them and give them direction? I know that's probably a pretty
Well,
broad.
it is, and there's two different ways that I want to talk about it, because I remember when my boys were younger, um, and I'm a very emotional person, but I'm not used to men being emotional. Like my father is the most I don't want to say he's emotionless, but he doesn't really quite get women and their emotions. Like it was him, his father, and his brother. Like the three of those dudes grew up together. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, like, literally, when my sister got married, not when she got married, when my brother in law asked my sister to marry him, she cried. And as soon as my brother, my future brother in law left, my dad was like, "You ain't got to marry him if you don't want to." And we were like, "We were happy tears, Daddy, happy tears." So there's like this kind of disconnection that's really interesting. Um, yeah, it's really interesting. But
You ain't got to
he has
marry him. That is
yeah, he's like, you ain't got to do nothing you don't want to do. But he has come a long way in really working on that. Like, I don't think emotional intelligence was like a thing, for him
right.
most of his life. Because he did what he thought a man was supposed to do. He took care of his family. He put food on the table. We were well treated. He taught us what men should do. All of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, the connection wasn't there. And so for me, I think I have a little bit of that kind of.
Mhm.
So I don't think of myself as like a fluff mom.
Right.
Like I'm not a father, and I
Right.
don't think I can raise men to be men because I've never been a
Right.
man. But
Right.
I'm not fluffy either. Right. So I think
right.
they got a good blend in a single parent.
Yeah,
But
that's
with
good.
that said, I have had to surround them with men that I thought would make a difference in their life. And I still strategically do that, even though they don't necessarily know that,
Hmm.
because I can't teach them things. And
Yeah.
with my oldest son, I really tried to let him make those decisions. Like he's
Hmm.
bought 3 cars this last year by himself. I would say,
Wow.
why don't you call Mr. Bo, who is our neighbor, and can give you some advice. I'm not a car person. He's like, no,
Mhm.
I want to do it myself. Okay.
Okay.
He learned a lot. We both learned a lot of lessons in
Yeah.
this process. Literally, like I gave him one of my cars to drive while he was looking for a car. And I told him, I
Hmm.
was like, maybe when we get ready, you can trade it in and use it as down payment. This dude is gonna send me $4,000 via Cash App because he sold the car on Facebook Marketplace.
My man.
He's like, so can you send me a title? I'm like, dude, we haven't paid the car off. Like, what are we doing? And so we went through this whole thing, but that's his thing. Like, he wants to be independent. He wants to figure it out. He owns his mistakes, and then he does something different. Like, that's him all day.
Yeah.
My poor little young baby over here, he needs a lot more guidance.
Hmm.
And so I work more with him on not babying him and really
Yeah.
now at this point forcing him to make decisions so that he can
Right.
start making decisions.
Yeah.
So they have to pay bills. They both are out of high school, so they both have to pay bills. It's not not in the entire bill, but I
Right.
want them to get them used to paying bills and being the head of the household. I want them to get used to making decisions about how to run a household. So I work really hard to for them to be independent and to be
Hmm.
good people and
Yeah.
and to surround them with men that can take them to that. But I do remember a time when my oldest was really young and he was in trouble for something and I never really had to spank him, but I remember I was yelling at him for something and he
Mm.
started crying and I was like, stop crying. And I remember the look on his face and it broke my heart. And I was like,
Mm.
I could see him as a man, like being
Hmm.
emotionally stunted and not, and I saw my father. I saw him becoming
Yeah.
my father.
Wow.
And from that point on, we started to work on emotional intelligence with
Yeah.
them to the point where I can, like something will happen. Like when I get really frustrated, it's hard for me to, usually the person who I'm frustrated with doesn't get the initial reaction, right?
Right.
And so when you live with people, usually they're the ones that get it. And so usually my kids like kind of get that initial
Mm.
friction. And so one day my father was like, I mean, not my father. See, my father. One day Tyler was like, we need to sit down, Mom, and figure out what is frustrating you to the point that you react
Yeah.
without thinking.
And we're getting the brunt of it.
Right. But I was just like, his emotional intelligence has developed to the
Yeah.
point that he recognizes that I'm not mad at him.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know what I'm mad at, and I have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I guess he was probably 17 or 18 at the time, is telling me to get my ish together. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I've raised my children to be more emotionally intelligent than I am. I don't know
Yeah.
how
But you know what?
it's
I
gonna
mean, so few people have any reasonable level of EQ and EI. And that's really a big thing even today, especially
go.
being able to navigate these relationships, whether they're familial or associative or relational or whatever. So that's a big thing, man. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
You
and
have that
now
balance that's necessary.
and now that they like are out in the world, like they both have girlfriends and they have jobs and in college and all that kind of stuff. It's just really cool to see, like how they treat their girlfriends and the things that their managers say about them at work and all of that kind of stuff.
Opening
Um,
doors and conjugating verbs and separating subjects and predicates.
saying ma'am and shaking
Yeah,
hands and all
chivalry.
of that stuff. Chivalry, yeah, and well,
Yeah,
just being polite and respectful.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's. I think about it. It was like we had. It was tough being a single mom in the career that I was in, and I have a lot of things that maybe I wish I could have done differently.
Hmm.
But I always tell people, like, you are paired with the people you are supposed to have.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and if I had not gotten the two kids that I got, I mean, it could have gone really bad, really quickly, because they spent a lot of time on their own.
yeah.
They did.
I was a single dad when I was in Chicago, and
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, I get the whole single parent thing. Look, I know we
Yeah.
only have so much time today because you've got to run, but I want to get to a few things specifically regarding you. I want to talk about Level Up at some point. Before I get to Level Up, tell me what you think about Prince. That's like my
So
favorite
I have a
musical
Prince
artist.
tattoo. Is it your
Huh?
favorite? I
What?
have a Darling Nikki tattoo. Uh,
Yeah,
I have a Darling
I
Nikki
saw some of
tattoo.
your artwork.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got this like after I resigned from Tom,
Yeah.
but the Bad Boys initiated me when I got to GCI, and that
Oh,
involved a lot of alcohol and
yeah.
tattoo parties.
Yeah,
And when
Crazy Howard and them were crazy. That whole GCI crew was off the chain.
yeah, so Mike Love and the Diz are responsible for my Darling Nikki Prince-esque tattoo,
Made it
and that
look
was my first one.
named Nick. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, you can't even imagine what I've lived through with that.
Yeah. So I mean,
Um,
when I saw that you were down with Prince like that, I'm like, I knew that was my girl. Prince is
yeah,
like it. So for you, Prince is who? Notice I said
freedom.
is, not was.
Yeah, freedom. Just pure creative expression in everything he did. I don't know if you ever went to one of his little after
Oh yeah.
shows. Okay,
Yeah,
so
man.
I mean, he is just creativity walking. Like
Yeah.
everything he does, there's some meaning, some I mean, he is to me, he's just him,
Yeah.
Bob Marley,
Yeah.
my two favorites,
Yeah. Yeah.
hands down.
That's
Yeah,
cool, man.
hands
So check it out. Level Up. Tell me
down.
about it. What's up with Level Up?
So for me, I think so many of us go through this life, and we do what we do, and and we go through our challenges, and we persevere, we thrive, we succeed, whatever. But we really don't share that, especially when you get to a certain level. And I think some people have the misconception, whether what you see on Instagram is real or not,
Mm.
that that they've made it and then that's it. Like you're just good. You're happy, you
Hmm.
live your life, and there's nothing else. And for me, level up is a concept that you are just constantly having to level up. Like no matter what,
Hmm.
if you want to go to the next level, you have got to do something different. You've got to learn something different. You've got to add somebody to your team or get rid of somebody on your team. You've got to do something that's going to take you to the next level. And a lot
Hmm.
of it involves your mindset. And this is something that, especially as an entrepreneur, that I really had to learn and work on, because no matter at what level you are, how much money you make, if you're employed, you're employed. And so you can still count that you're going to get a paycheck, whether you goofed off or, took a long lunch, or, decided to stay in bed all day and call in sick. You're still going to get a paycheck. That's not necessarily true as an entrepreneur.
No,
And so if you
that's not true at all.
yeah. Well, I don't want to take away from some people's story. You hear those overnight successes, and so I'm sure I know it's possible, but for most of us, that's not how it happens.
Yeah.
And so you really have got to do a lot of mindset work. And the first 3 months that I was truly, just a true entrepreneur, most of my clients were in Houston, and they had do they have tornadoes in Houston? Where they have hurricanes or tornadoes? Hurricanes. So the hurricane happened, and people were like, "We can't pay you for your fluff service, because we gotta take care of our house."
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to say to that? Like, no, you can't. You all sleep on the street.
Forget your house.
You can't. Right. So you have to understand that. But that I can't tell my people now that no, they didn't pay me, so now I can't pay you. Right. So you got to figure it out. And so for most people, that whole roller coaster, sometimes it's feast or famine. I mean, you may make $30,000 one month and $30 the next. You never know. Mm-hmm. And so that was really hard. And so really getting into that mindset, a more abundant mindset as opposed to a dependent mindset. And I think that for some of us, even if you make a lot of money and people think that you're, like well off or rich or whatever, once you stop getting a paycheck, you got to figure it out. And for, if you make, a certain amount of money, you also live a certain lifestyle that you have to support. And so, sometimes even if you leave a really good job, you've got a lot to replace. And so that pressure is there. So at any level, there is stress or something you're going to have to learn, or some way to better yourself, or whatever. And so that's really what the concept behind Level Up is. I didn't really realize what a mind game this is as opposed to like an expert game. I mean, like, you really have got to be on your mindset game.
Yeah, you got to be on it. I mean, because it's the difference between being paid a check and making a check.
A check.
I have to make my checks. You have to. Yeah. Entrepreneurs have to make their money, not be paid their money. And so I think that's amazing. Level Up. And one of the things that I heard.
So I say create their money. I'm just gonna say.
Okay.
Because I think we have to create it, because especially with COVID, like so many of us had to pivot and figure it out. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's what we are. We are in, pure co-creation.
Yeah.
With the universe, and even when you're employed, but I think that being an entrepreneur, because I mean, obviously you have to have some faith that you belong there. But I think as an entrepreneur, it's 10 times that.
Yeah, and you have to be in a perpetually evolving state of mind. Go to bed late and get up early, man. I mean, it's the the story of the Serengeti jungles in Africa. What is it? The slowest leopard has to outrun the fastest gazelle if it wants to eat that day, and in the same
be the
jungle.
Smartest. See, I don't know if I understand, and I really want to get out of like this hustle mindset. Because I think we do ourselves a disservice, because that to me also says a little bit of a lack of faith. Yeah. Because you feel like you gotta work from 2 a.m. till midnight. You gotta have 9. Some people really believe if they don't work like that they're not successful. No. And I really have been intentional, especially since COVID hit, about having more ease and more flow. In my life, as opposed to, struggle is not cute at all.
Oh, no.
And I think that to me is just a mindset thing. People want to make that a money thing, or a profession thing, or a, good or a bad, or successful or not successful. And it's not. It's just a mindset thing.
Yeah, that's a good point you make.
You can be in the exact same financial situation, and if your mindset changes, it feels totally different, and then that opens you up to see the possibilities of how to bring more of that.
Hmm.
But so many of us, like, we sit there and we focus on the one person who didn't pay, our invoice, as
Right.
opposed to the 12 people who did. And so what do we perpetuate? More people not paying an invoice, because that's
Yep.
our focus.
Yeah.
So I really think that I really want, especially women, I really want us to get
Hmm.
away from that whole mindset thing, but men too, because I think that
Yeah.
what the hustle mentality does is it takes away from our family, it takes away
Hmm.
from our friends, it takes away from our community. Because I don't think the harder you hustle, the more money you make. I think that's a myth. I think that's a
No.
fallacy.
No, I certainly agree with that. I think that for me, the way I have, really re-engineered that hustle mindset is really just to stay hungry. I don't ever want to get to a point to where I just tell my soul to eat, drink, and be merry and sit back and chill, because the next day is going to catch up on me and to me very fast. So I certainly agree with that
You have
wholeheartedly.
a mission, so I think that's a little different, right? Like, you have this
Right.
calling on your life that you are fulfilling, and that it's hard to get tired when when you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I tell people, like, what I do is more who I am than a
Hmm.
job or a
Hmm.
business or a
Exactly.
career.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so,
everybody can't do what you do, and everybody can't do what I do, especially when our purpose and passion are connected, right?
absolutely, and
Yeah.
everybody has that. But so many people are stuck in jobs or situations or whatever, because they feel that that is all they can have, and if they
Hmm.
let that go, then, oh my god, like, what if something doesn't happen over here? Like, have you ever heard of human design?
Yes.
Have you ever heard? Okay,
Yeah.
so I do a lot with human design since I got
Talk
my
about that
reading.
for our audience.
So human design, and I'm really not an expert at it, but
Hmm.
it's based on, like, the zodiac and astrological things, and basically you have a design on your life, and how you're supposed to interact in the co-creation process and interact with the world around you. So situations, jobs, people, whatever. And so for
Hmm.
me, I'm a generator, and so what that means is my natural response is to respond, right?
Hmm.
And I'm like, and then, she's like, yeah, you sit back, you just wait, opportunities will come to you. And I'm like, huh? Like, first of all, I'm Jamaican, so don't nobody ever sit back with not just one
What
job.
going
Like, we got
on? What going on?
right. And so, and then I'm in a business where, somebody, if you lose it, if you get a job, it's because somebody lost a job. Like, there are no open positions sitting around. So you want to
Right.
stay hungry and hustling and in demand and visible. So, like, you're telling a woman who her whole life has been based
Hmm.
on hustle that
Right.
I'm not supposed to go after stuff. Like, I'm supposed to sit back and wait for stuff to come to me. And when I
Mm.
started doing it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
that's good
it was
stuff there.
amazing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so a lot of those things, and people might think it sounds woo woo, and I'm not saying you should do it or you shouldn't, but a lot of us need tools to learn how we respond and what works best for us. So one of the biggest issues that I have with, like, coaches and consultants, I think there's some great ones out there. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but most of them cannot teach you to do what they did. Right? They did it. They were
Right.
successful. It was a fluke. Or their program doesn't work with how you naturally interact with the world. And so
Hmm.
then when you're not successful, they tell you you didn't do the work, but it's just
Hmm.
not a duplicatable system. And so
Yeah.
one thing that human design has done for me and how I work with people, like, I can tell from the way people, especially in their marketing, like the way they post things, like what their design is.
Hmm.
And it's just really interesting. So it helps when I work with clients, because I know, like, if you're a generator, that I can't tell you to go out there and find 5 new clients.
Right.
I need you to ask a question like, who needs help in PR, and wait for the 5 clients to come to you. And then you can respond and seal the deal.
There
So
you
it's just
go.
a fine tuning, but it feels so much more energetically aligned to who I am
Yeah.
that it's fun. So I can
Right.
ask
Well,
questions all day. I'm an
and it's
interviewer.
not and it's not real work for you, because
And it's not
that's
real
within
work.
your DNA.
And it starts the conversation that leads to the deal. And I can have conversations that's why I, started in the radio. I like to have the conversation. And so it's just a little switch, but all of those things help you in figuring out what your path is and how you show up in the world, and how it best works with the life that you want, not just the money you want to make.
Yeah. This is a natural point of progression here. Talk a little bit about your coaching, your media coaching, your marketing coaching, and everything that you do. Talk a little bit about that. I have a few more things that I want to cover before we get out of here, because I know you have to go.
Oh, no,
but talk a little bit about your coaching.
So I really work with people. I want to say I really work with people in a comprehensive way. When I first started as an entrepreneur, and I was doing mostly consulting, some coaching, like I was like, I don't want to fix anybody's life. Like, I don't want to, motivate you. I don't want to inspire you. I want you to come so I can tell you how to get media, and then you go get media and we're good. Like, I don't, if I need to refer, like, how backwards is that? Right. And so, unfortunately, we show up as who we are wherever we go. And if you don't have the confidence, or you don't believe that you have any value or nothing to offer, or nobody wants to hear what you have to say, or, then what am I going? I can't, nothing I teach you is going to be effective. So you have to look at the whole. Right. So I work with marketing. I work mostly digital marketing, not as much traditional marketing, PR, media training, and then just how to establish yourself as an expert. I don't have packages. I can give you, some basic packages, but I really want to look at your comprehensive situation and figure out what's going to be, first, the easiest thing to get you started. And then second, what is going to be in alignment with who you are. Because no matter what, if you're energetically off, or you're not showing up fully as who you are, then the people who need you will not be able to find you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's good. That's good.
So
you said,
a little.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say just a little example about energy. I don't know if you know, but I'm a rape survivor, and
I did not know that.
Because I really don't. I've started talking about it really recently, but I really don't talk a lot about it. But it's a big part of my story. And I could not figure out for the life of me, like, where everybody that I was coaching had sexual trauma in their history. And finally somebody said, do you have sexual trauma in your history? And I was like, oh.
Hey, I was molested at 8.
Yeah. And so it's like, even though you don't say it, energetically, you draw people to you. And if I wasn't embracing all of who I was, I would not be able to serve the people that were drawn to me. I'd be attracting people that, that are looking for something else. And so it just becomes a big mess. So energy is a really big thing. Confidence is a really big thing. And really, being secure in the value that you offer, that's a big thing. And so so I really like to take a comprehensive look at where you are, how you think about where you are, where you want to go, and one, what's the fastest way we can get you a win, because that always helps with mindset. And then two, what is our long range plan, so that not only do you get more media, but that you fall in love with your business, which will let you enjoy your life.
Right. That's good. So the whole energy thing, the universe, I have a daughter, she's about the universe and everything like that. You said something about the universe, speaking of energy and the cosmos and all that type of stuff. You said the universe has only 3 answers. Do you remember what you said about that?
Yes, no, not now.
That's it. Yes, no, hold on, I have something better in store for you.
Yeah.
How did you come to that conclusion? It's accurate. So I'm just wondering how you can.
No, it absolutely is accurate. So it's very clear to me in my professional life how true that is. And I think that we all kind of, I don't know anybody that has like a great professional life and a great personal life all at the same time. Right. And so professionally for me, it's like I've always known what I have professionally. And so for me, it's like, oh, okay. So like I was in Boston, and Boston is 1 million. city.
Mhm.
I don't know if I got fired or if I left, but it was a bad situation and I was out of there. And then I went to Chicago, and Chicago is 2 million.
Mhm.
Got fired in Chicago, went to Tom. Tom is 10 million. So,
Mhm.
so it's like I've never been afraid to be fired. Obviously, it doesn't feel good, but I
Mhm.
never thought that like, oh my God, that's the end of me. That's it. And so when you
Mhm.
don't have that fear, you stay open to the possibilities. That's
Yeah.
not the way I am personally. I mean, I'm getting there, but that's not necessarily the way I am personally. And so to realize that just because something doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that the world is against you or you're a bad person or it's karma. There might be something better. And when you hold that as a possibility, you will start to see the opportunity. But when you're only focused on the loss, all you see is the loss.
It goes right in line with what you said, Nick. Life's best teachers are heartbreaks, empty pockets, and failures. I told you I did some
And
research.
and I wish people would fail faster. Like I wish they would be
Wow.
okay with failing and failing fast so they can get to the success. Because nothing motivates you like a failure. Nothing.
Man, that was so
And most of
profound.
mine have been public, so you
Yeah.
know.
I'm a
Yeah.
hyperactive sapiosexual as it is. So whenever you start saying, statements of high profundity, that's just amazing. I wish people would fail faster.
Hmm.
Man, that's some good stuff. And you
Yeah.
were talking about just kind of the personal professional. You were talking about what you have to do as a generator and what this energy is, because everything that you talked about, people being successful, and even in your coaching and just your personality, you're just an amazing individual. I've been tracking you
Thank
for
you.
years, and the thing that I love about you and having known and tracked you for this amount of years, your consistency is there. But one of the things you said was, I'm willing to do what most people want for much longer than they think they can't.
Yeah.
What? Talk
Yeah.
about that.
I think that, I think people get really comfortable with where they are. And I think they get that way on all various levels. And so when I look at different situations, like I want to be a film producer, I want to do something different.
Hmm.
Most people would think, if you've attained a certain level of success, that you would go in there and you'd be like, look, I'm Nikki Woods. I don't know if you know what I've done. Here's my resume. Start me at the top.
Hmm.
I don't know anything about film. I don't and so for me, I'm willing to do the things to get where
Right.
I want to be that most people wouldn't want to do. Like I'll
Hmm.
volunteer. If I want to learn something from somebody, I'll volunteer. Now my volunteer may be, I'll come teach a PR training. I'm not gonna,
Hmm.
I might not be sweeping the floors,
Hmm.
but it's still a volunteer. And it's
Right.
still me saying, okay, I don't know everything. I've lived this
Right.
long. I don't know anything about this. So let me humble myself and learn. And I think that's where a lot of our generation and going down, where we miss that, because everybody just they want it, like, oh, I made a rap album, so I want this, or
Hmm.
but you're not really willing to do the work. I mean, you got to do the work. You got to do
Yeah.
the work.
Well, I mean, that's how you wind up getting your MUB and PhD in UNF. Watch this.
I don't have any idea what any of that is.
No, it's coming.
Okay,
You
okay.
got your master's in unbothered and your PhD with the concentration in unfuckable.
I said that the other day.
Nick, I told you I put my work
I
in.
love
When I
that
saw
word.
that, I died.
I saw that word. I was like, I am using this in a sentence. I
Man,
don't care how.
listen,
Yeah.
it's ingenious how you create, the hybrid of hubris and that that unsuspecting humor. And I mean that's what really just your post and everything are great. Let me get a
Thank
couple other things in. I know we're gonna have other conversations. I know you gotta go, but well,
you. Sure.
first of all, let me just say this. Your books, easier said than done.
Mhm.
Um, that book is, if you all have not gotten that book, you just need to get the book. And then shift happens, and then shift on, right? But let me just tell you this,
Shift
something
happens and
that you
shift
didn't know.
on. What?
Here's something you didn't know.
What?
One of my very good friends is Rashonda Tate Billingsley. And she actually was,
Oh,
yeah.
so she actually, they republished Easier Said Than Done.
Yeah,
Rashonda
yeah.
and Victoria, yeah.
And Victoria, yeah, they republished.
Oh.
I'll be interviewing her, as a matter of fact, next week. I
just
did
saw
her
she got
50th.
remarried. I was like, COVID has messed everything. I didn't know
Man,
she got divorced.
she just told me
COVID
today
messed
she
everything
got
else.
November. I mean, this is not the news report, but I mean, she
No.
told me today. She said, "Hey,
I just want to say congratulations. I'm thrilled, but it's just COVID has changed everything. It's like I felt so connected to people, and now it's like things are happening I didn't know was beginning. So, but she's phenomenal. Victoria is phenomenal, and they were really trying to they are doing really wonderful things for writers of color, for authors of color. So
yeah,
I do want to
absolutely.
say that they've done some phenomenal things.
Yeah, I did
Together on their own.
I did her 50th birthday. I did the videography and photography for her.
Oh,
50th
did you?
birthday. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I think she just told me today that she got married back in November.
Yeah, I just saw the pictures on Facebook. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw the pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, that's cool. So those books there, where can we find those? I know on Amazon. Can we find them anywhere else?
Yeah, they're online everywhere books are sold. I will say not Amazon. Easier Said Than Done is fiction. And then the Shift
It's
series.
yeah,
it is interesting. Yeah. My nephew, when it first came out, I was in Chicago, and my oldest nephew read it, and he must have been, and I didn't even know he had it. He must have been like maybe 13, 14. And he left this long review on Goodreads, and it's still up there. And he talks about how good it is, and and he's like, but it is inappropriate for people under. And I'm like, well, why you read it?
Yeah, but it was
Well, it is a romance. There are some 18+ scenes in it. The most uncomfortable conversation I've ever had with my grandmother was after she read that book and wanted to know how I figured all those things out. And I was like, well, I have had 2 kids.
How you know all
Learned a couple things. Yeah. And I don't think my dad has ever had a conversation with me about it, but he read it. So.
Well, he's emotionless.
Yeah, but he's had 2 kids too, so I know he knows a couple things.
Yeah, hey, we know he knows at least 2 things.
At least 2 things.
He at least knew it twice, having 2 kids, right? So, your latest audiobook.
Oh, we're not talking about that right now. No, we're not talking about it.
Out of there. Okay, next. Not even going to talk about that.
Stay tuned because there's a new book coming.
Coming out. We're not going to talk about it. Any other upcoming projects, events, or appearances that you have coming up?
So I would love to come back. I am going to start a challenge in January with some of the things that I've learned.
Oh, no.
No. Oh my goodness. Okay, we can't talk about. See, you tease the things when I gotta go.
All right, I know you gotta go.
Okay, if anybody comments on this, I will. If you post it on Instagram and somebody comments, I will direct message you with the challenge, both challenges, and we'll see what happens. Cool. We'll see which challenge people want to do more.
All right, that's a bet. So you receive a challenge.
I love bets. I don't gamble, but I love bets.
All right, so that's a challenge. Right. Nikki Woods put it out there. Listen, let me tell you something, Nikki. Don't shrink, man. Keep doing your thing. Keep expanding. Thank you so much again for the time. I'm looking forward to having more conversations, man. It's just amazing. All things Nikki Woods can be found at nikkywoodsmedia.com.
Yes, they can. Right. And services or whatever, but just connect with me on social. I love having the conversations. And I thank you for holding space for me because you really do. And I don't necessarily always say it, but I notice and I feel it and I appreciate it.
Nick, it's been my pleasure, man. Hang tight for a minute. Everybody, hope you enjoyed Miss Nikki Woods. She'll be back again. Looking forward to seeing you all. It's our talk from the TIMple. Have a fantastic evening.